Women sell differently than men. First off, women are better at empathy. They have higher levels of emotional intelligence. They are better active listeners. And they read nonverbal cues better than their male counterparts.
Welcome to Rep Matters, a podcast for sales professionals who are eager to build their business acumen and become top performers. In each episode, your hosts, Zoya Segelbacher and Caroline Jones, explore the real-life experiences, obstacles, and triumphs of salespeople. With an emphasis on authenticity and storytelling, listeners gain valuable insights into the strategies, mindsets, and skills that drive success in sales. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Rep Matters. This episode is brought to you by Marketers in Demand. Marketers in Demand has in-depth videos, podcasts, and articles from some of B2B's most in-demand marketers. Folks, get ready for a jolt of inspiration because we've got the incredible Cynthia Barnes joining us here today. Cynthia's journey is a powerful one. From being the only Black family in a sundown town, she's become a true force of nature in the corporate world. This woman walks the walk, shatters expectations, and is paving the way for women everywhere. Her dedication is off the charts. Cynthia founded the National Association of Women Sales Pros, and those numbers speak for themselves. A 25% increase in women reaching senior positions. She's also the first Black woman to keynote a national sales conference, a multi-time Salesforce influencer, a published author, a LinkedIn top influencer, and much, much more. Cannot wait to dive in. Let's just get right into it. I'd love for everyone on the pod to meet the unstoppable Cynthia Barnes. Welcome to the show, Cynthia.
Hey, thank you so much. How y'all doing?
Better now.
All right.
It's great to see you, Cynthia. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. I think there's only one place for us to start, and it's thank you. It's true. You are making this statement of empowerment go viral. Can you tell us what it means to you?
So, for women and some men, we think somehow that humility means self-effacement. Somehow along the line, we've got it twisted. And if you think about generations ago, society valued modesty in women. And it's like as kids, we were given a playbook on how to be a boy or a girl. Girls were taught to care about others' feelings and to be soft and to be kind, while boys, on the other hand, were taught to be bold and assertive and shout their accomplishments from the rooftops, while women and little girls were taught to whisper them in the shadows. Thank You, It's True is a story about women in Uganda. When they accept a compliment, they don't self-deprecate. They don't jump around the issue. They don't throw it under the rug. They don't accept compliments by deflecting them. They accept compliments by saying, "Thank you, it's true." So I'm on a mission to spark a global movement where it is expected, not just encouraged, for women to own their awesome by responding to compliments by saying, "Thank you, it's true."
I love that. How did you come to find out about Thank You, It's True in Uganda?
It's a story that I heard from Michael Bernard Beckwith, and he is a minister of Agape Church in California, and he was talking about women and empowerment. And the story stuck. So I did some research to find out whether or not it was actually true, spoke to some women in Uganda, and found out that it is true. And I thought, well, why is no one talking about this? Why is Thank You, It's True just now going viral? Because I started a movement with it. Doesn't really matter how it got started, as long as it does, right?
Yeah, no, I love it. It's such a fun story too. I love that that's like part of how it got started.
I'm currently living in a culture outside of my home culture. So this Thank You, It's True was interesting for me as a, good girl, American, first child person in the world. I'm now living in Japan, which also has a very interesting linguistic culture in relation to compliments. So one of the first things I learned when I moved here is how to respond to compliments appropriately. And in the US, I had just gotten used to saying thank you to a compliment. And then I came to Japan and learned that compliments are to be rejected regardless of gender, in the sense that the typical response is no, 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 no in Japanese. So it just gives me a lot to think about when in America we can learn from so many different cultures on ways that we can be more empowered using our language, and what kind of influence something like that might have on a different culture, even from American.
Absolutely. I think that I would love for us to get to the point where women, regardless of demographic, regardless of where they live, regardless of geography, can own their awesome. That I think we would change the world when women are expected to do that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know it's hard though, because societal pressure says you've got to be this way, that way. But if Lizzo can top the charts with her positive body movement, anything's possible.
I love that you bring it up because I feel like I'm one of those weirdos. I was the kind of child who I loved like all of my artwork. Like I was also an only child, but I was the kind who would like go to my parents and I'd be like, "Isn't it just amazing? Like, isn't it just the best?" And not out of ego, right? Like, I mean, I guess all children have like a limited sense, right, of like the world outside of them. And what my mom would say, she had the best response. She would be like, "I love it, Zoya. I don't know if I love it as much as you, but I love it." But I think I spent like a good amount of my life, I don't know, once you become more self-aware, like worried, am I humble enough, or am I am I just doing something that's wrong? But where I ended up feeling was I like to be nice to myself. I like to
Mhm.
enjoy myself. I have moments where I'm extremely hard on myself. So then I just got to the point where I was like, I think it's okay for me to be happy that I learned something or that I earned, something. So I think this is very important. And I hope that people don't, doubt that. If they're already doing it, a lot of us, I feel like a lot of little girls do it as a kid too, right? Like if you look at like 5-year-olds, they do. They stand up
Mhm.
proud. They like throw their hands in the air, right? When they accomplish something.
Yes.
And it's not
We do it
until
until
we get
someone
older.
tells us not to,
Yeah.
right? We do it until someone tells us not to. Oh, you're going to be you're so full of yourself. I was at an
Oh, yeah.
event and I I told this a man gave me a compliment and I said, "Thank you. It's true." And he paused and he said, "Do you know what the Bible says about humility?" And I said, "Ex-" and so I stopped myself and I put on my corporate smile and I said, "That's an interesting question. Why do you ask?" And he said, "Well, you may want to look it up." Somewhere along the line, we've been taught that humility is self effacement. But think about this, you go into your boss's office, and he or she says, "You did an excellent job on that presentation. That project was out of this world." And you downplay it. You say, "Oh, I just got lucky," or "It was a team effort." Subconsciously, your boss is now thinking, "Well, maybe the promotion I'm about to give her, she's not ready for. Maybe so and so who can accept a compliment or who is owning their awesome is ready for that promotion." There are tons of reasons for us to own compliments. The first one being it boosters our confidence. And as sales professionals, we have to be confident.
Cynthia, I'm curious. You gave such a powerful story of basically someone stealing the compliment right out of their own mouth after they said it. Do you remember any times when you were younger, or like maybe a childhood experience where you remember first being told to hide your awesome?
Yes, yes. I was the only Black child in a school of white children for 12 years. I was taught countless times in countless ways, be seen but not heard. Don't draw attention to yourself. It's already bad enough that you're the only black one, so you stand out like a sore thumb. Don't add insult to injury by being vocal. And my parents got wind of that. And they said, "Oh, no, 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 no. No, we didn't come this far for you to dim your light. We didn't come this far for you to be small or play small so that others can shine." So even though I was told by my white teachers and by my white colleagues and students to sit and be seen but not heard, I learned at a young age to speak up and be proud of who I am and to own my worth, because I was good enough without even trying. I was powerful beyond measure. But if I listened to society, I wouldn't feel that way.
And you wouldn't have brought so many women with you to the top.
Facts.
Thank you. It's true.
Well, you have brought so many women with you and you've shared so much wisdom. In fact, I think you have over 250 publications around the world. Can you tell us about some of those? And even I'm really curious about like how the first one came to be.
Yes, so that 250 is interviews from major publications. So Wall Street Journal, Business Insider. It was a strategic move to become seen, to become known. I read a book and they said the best PR you can ever accomplish is not hiring a PR firm. You create your own PR. People believe the story you tell them. So when you put the story out there, you just keep repeating it over and over and over. And people start to want to learn more. It's the difference between, like in sales, you can give a convincing argument on why your product or service is the best, and that's mediocre. Instead, give a compelling argument as to why your product or service is best. And that's what I did. I gave a compelling argument as to why I should be interviewed, because I had something valuable to say that my target market wanted to hear.
I'd love to hear how you ended up originally getting into sales. Yeah. Could you tell us your origin story in sales?
I was hoodwinked and promised the pie in the sky. I was attending a for-profit university, and one day they said, "Hey, we're hiring enrollment counselors." And I said, "Well, I have a job." They said, "But if you work for us, we'll give you your degree for free." I said, "When would you like me to start?" So,
Sure.
so this enrollment counselor job at a for-profit university, I was enrolling students, and what I learned was after 3 months, I had my first performance evaluation. And they said, "Based upon the number of students you've enrolled, we're going to triple your salary." I said, "Wait, what?" And so I started thinking, and I said, "So the more students I enroll, the more money I make." Now, see, they never said it was a sales job. Never, ever. I thought I was an enrollment counselor. Once I figured out the math, man, I was listening to books. I was reading articles, reading books, going to conferences. I taught myself how to sell. So that's how I got into sales. But I got hoodwinked.
I love
Wouldn't
that.
it be interesting if we just rebranded every sales job as a counselor? Because that is kind of what we should be doing in the beginning, at least, right?
You know what? Yes, because it's almost like being a therapist.
Yeah.
We listen to problems, we solve problems, and we get paid handsomely for it.
Cynthia, I've been following you for a long time, and you provide so much insight, not just into sales empowerment and information for women looking to grow their careers in sales, but also related to diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. There's a lot of talk in the industry, particularly in the US right now, about the challenges that people in these types of roles are facing. You're a speaker and are often invited into spaces that are looking to change the face of their leadership team. Can you give us your temperature check on the state of DEI and B initiatives right now?
Yes. And which industry would you like to focus on? Because it differs.
Interesting.
Yes.
Let's talk about tech first, at least.
Oh my. I'm going to say this, and I'll pause after I say it for it to sink in. In 2024, if your sales team, if your leadership team, if your whatever fill in the blank is homogeneous, meaning it all looks the same, in 2024, if it all looks the same, it's by design.
Yeah. Tell us. I know what you mean by that, but can you tell us like explicitly, like for a listener who's like, well, that's not true, or what does
Yes.
that mean exactly?
It's like, I'll give you an example. Let's say that you would like to learn how to bake cupcakes. There are so many resources out there for you to learn how to bake cupcakes. You can pick up a cookbook. You can watch YouTube. You can Google recipes. You can go to school. Really no excuse not to learn how to bake cupcakes, right? In 2024, for companies who have not diversified their sales teams, there are too many resources available to do so. There are women's organizations for sales professionals. There are countless ways, job boards, events. There's really no excuse. There are recruiters who specialize in women in sales. So for you to say, or whomever to say, we can't find qualified, diverse female sales candidates, I call BS. For those who say, well, so-and-so's not a culture fit, because I've worked with talent acquisition teams and they bring the Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Kobe Bryant, and Draymond Green of the sales world to these frontline managers, and the frontline managers will look at them and say, they're not a good culture fit. I just brought you Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. They have stellar records, but because they don't match the demographic that you're used to, you're going to say they're not a culture fit. Tech is one of those industries where, and there was an executive at American Express who said it so eloquently, the reason tech has such a hard time with diversity is because tech leaders didn't grow up in diverse areas. They're not used to diversity and they don't want to get used to diversity.
Yeah, that is really
And
well
with
said.
that,
Yeah, it sounds like a case of if you wanted to, you would have.
yes. Yes.
And if you felt defensive hearing Cynthia's first statement that it's by design, first of all, I'd be surprised if you're listening to this show. But if you felt defensive, that's a sign that you need to take a quick look into your organization. I think people take it personally. But, you know, I just can't believe we still have to have this conversation. But I did want to ask because you're a person who's done a ton of work in this area, which brings me to a question about like labor in this field. Like imagine we have an individual contributor in sales who's the only Black woman on the sales team. This person will probably be asked to join interviews. They'll probably be expected maybe to represent the sales team in the ERG and do a lot of additional labor. It's difficult, right? We want this person involved so we can hopefully create an organization that reflects diverse backgrounds. But then we're asking this individual to do so much more when she's carrying a bag as quota. How would you recommend to someone like that to navigate this kind of space that, as it stands today, is not built well for them?
Ooh-wee. I can say things because I don't have a boss. So let me just preface it with that. So what I'm about to say, because I've been asked to represent all Black people because I'm the only one at the company. She still has to carry a quota, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If the team wants to diversify, there's a budget for diversification, right?
Better be.
So her efforts should be compensated monetarily First and foremost, you want me to play a role and represent on these panels and all these ERGs and all of that good stuff, then let's redefine my compensation structure, because you're taking time away from my book of business to help you diversify your team. It's only fair, right? Right. Second thing I would do would be to ask, what type of initiatives do we have to help women thrive within the company? Because if there are no ERGs, if there are no clear pathways for women to ascend to sales leadership or leadership period, then she's wasting her time. If there's no dollar for professional development, then she's about to bounce. Because the number one reason why women leave their jobs is not because of a bad manager, contrary to what they say, it's because there's no development. And by development, I mean specific to the unique challenges women face and development that amplifies their innate strengths. You can't give the same meal to everybody at the table if not everybody eats steak. If they're vegan, then you have to give them what they need to thrive. Same thing with sales training and professional development.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
I love that. You're saying all kinds of quotable things today. Like everyone at this point is saying people don't leave jobs, people leave managers, people and I think like maybe it's even baked in, right? Like if your manager is not the conduit to those things, right? Then it could seem like it was your manager. Oh, my manager didn't support me. Oh, my manager, didn't XYZ. But it really is, it's systematic, right? To just blame it on the manager, or like systemic, I should say, to just blame it on the manager, right? Is actually like taking accountability off of the institution, actually, for not having those pathways or not having
And accountability. Accountability off yourself. You are in charge of your pathway of progression. If you're not getting what you need, then you need to speak up, or you go someplace else that has it. I talk about that in my book. You are responsible for you. The company is not responsible for your professional development. Go get it. So what if you have to pay for it yourself? My parents always told me, Cynthia, there is nothing that they can do to you when you have a head full of knowledge. They can fire you, but you can take that knowledge and go get another job. They can call you names, but you can take that knowledge and do whatever you want with it. A lot of times people don't take responsibility, and they don't understand how much power they have within themselves. You were looking for a job when you found that one. Keep it moving. Yep. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we're the
Totally
asset,
agree.
right? And in this environment, there's no safe company, there's no safe industry. We have to keep investing in ourselves.
Caroline, I am so glad you said that. So let's get real for a minute. As a woman in sales, you are highly coveted. Statistically, empirical data says that women sell 11% better than our male counterparts. So when companies hire more women in sales, their bottom line increases. 78% of Fortune 500 companies want more women because they know that diversity makes them more competitive. So the biggest department normally in a company is sales. They want more women in sales. You get to write your ticket as a woman in sales. You get to say, I'm going to choose companies that celebrate me, not just tolerate me. Not just about the dollar, but about the culture, the environment, how many women are in leadership positions. You get to be selective. And I think a lot of women forget that.
Yeah, it's actually scary. I've been there. And like, it's crazy how quickly we can lose sight of the reality and the truth. For me, being on the outside of the sales team actually helped. Like, I joined the enablement team from an AE role, and like realizing how we hired, what we hired for, what we were looking for, even how we made buying decisions gave me a different perspective. But I think some women could use a little dose of Cynthia in their feed if they don't already have you, to remember their power in this situation. It's a financial game.
Yeah, we give away our power all the time. We're just going to accept, oh, the starting salary is $120. I'll take it. What? No, boo-boo. We need to negotiate. We need to find out what are they paying everybody else. And if you don't know, ask. And if they won't tell you, then go. Because why wouldn't they be transparent? What do they have to hide?
Yep. And I think something else to keep in mind is that like leverage and power also shifts. Because I speak with people who are like just starting out, right? So obviously if you're just starting out, don't accept a salary that's below pay range. But there's also all kinds of ranges in sales now as well, like all kinds of ranges. And
Yes.
sometimes, I will be speaking to someone who has been looking for work for over a year. And I feel like sometimes they get conflicted with the advice, right?
Yes.
Where it's like, there's a certain amount that this person made 200K. Don't I deserve a job that's 200K? And it's like, I'm not going to answer that question, but sometimes, right, the offers that you get and the amount of time that you have left to decide if you want to be employed or not start to put a weight on you, right? So sometimes it is like you do have to
Yes.
make a decision because of a time constraint, because of a limitation, because you have a family, whatever it is. But I think sometimes
Because you're broke.
Because you're broke, exactly. Because you're
Yeah.
afraid. But like as we mature in our sales role, as we gain more tenure, 6 months in even, right? You might be in a totally different situation than you were when you first accepted that role. Or you might have discovered something about the company where you're like, oh, I really thought it was going to be XYZ, but it's not. And then you have a choice, right? Like then you can stay
Yes.
or you can start to gear up, invest in yourself, do all those things to move on. I feel like sometimes people get stuck. We get scared, right? Like the world is scary.
Yes.
And then we stay in that mindset that's like old. Like that news is so old. Your skills are so different. Your situation is so different. But sometimes we still act the same way that we did when we were hungry or broke or like whatever.
Yes. Yes.
So,
I think that that fear factor is very powerful because sometimes your current situation has you telling yourself different stories that may or may not be true. Like, I'm broke, there's no money in my bank account, I got to take the first thing available. I can understand where that's coming from, and everything is negotiable. So it may not be the salary, but what about the time off? What about professional development? What about college education? What is it the company can offer you to sweeten the pot? And if you don't have a list of things that you want to ask before you go into that negotiation conversation, shame on you, because everything is negotiable. What's the worst they could say? No. No just simply means not now.
yep.
Ask.
That's a
As
great
they say
point.
here in the South. Yeah, as they say here in the South, the closed mouth doesn't get fed.
And if they're negotiating, I was going to say, and if you're at the point where they're negotiating, if
Zoya.
you have an offer, they want you as well, right? Like if we get to
They
that
do.
point, I think that's the other thing too. Sometimes people don't always know the stage of when to negotiate as well. Like have those conversations, get the offer in your hand, and then see what levers you can pull, whether it's like you said, compensation, or I love these examples that you're giving that are like non-compensation related, like time off.
And I think that individual contributors and, leaders, we forget about the power of setting the anchor. Are you familiar with that term?
Yes, but
Okay.
Please
let's
tell
hear it.
us.
Okay. So in any negotiation, let's say you're talking to your customer and you, instead of asking them, well, what is your budget for this? You set the anchor at whatever. Let's say that I'm going into a salary negotiation, and I know that with my knowledge, skills, and abilities, I'm worth a base of $250. Let's just say. If I wait for them to tell me what they're willing to pay, number one, they're going to lowball me. And number two, if I let them set the anchor, let's say it's 150, I am then now forced to negotiate around their 150. If I set the anchor first at 250, then that is up to them to come, if they want me, to negotiate around my 250. The same thing applies in sales. You can't expect someone to come up $150 or $100,000 unless you set the anchor first. It's psychological. Sales is psychological. And so is negotiation.
Yep.
Very powerful. for, I think, the job search, salary negotiation, and navigating a sales cycle, which brings me to bounce back ability, resilience, right? Also
Mm.
very important in both of those spheres. I'm curious, as you speak about this a lot, and it's the kinds of things we have to bounce back from differ based on our identity. But one particular scenario is on my mind, which is salespeople. Maybe let's go back to our example of our woman who's the only on her sales
Mm-hmm.
team, right? Maybe she's struggling. Maybe she's wondering if sales is even the right path for her.
Mm-hmm.
How would you counsel someone to know if they're dealing with or having to be more resilient in the role and keep going, or being more resilient and go find some other path that's better for them?
Ah, number one, who's to say that another path is better?
Right.
Right? So, one thing that I value is I make a list of my values, my wants, and my needs at that particular moment. My values don't change. As long as I'm winning, wealthy, and having fun, I'm good. My wants and my needs at a particular time may change. But when I take a look at all of those and I compare my values, my wants, and my needs compared to what I'm getting, if those do not align, I have to ask myself some serious questions. Why aren't they aligning? And number two, what's my role? Do I not like this job because I'm not performing well? What's my role? We can only control ourselves and how we respond to things. A lot of times though, our perception is based upon something we don't like. And I encourage everyone who's listening to embrace the suck. Because whatever it is that you are going through in that role, if you don't fix your portion, it will follow you no matter where you go. Ask yourself, what's my role?
There's an inner game here that doesn't matter. The environment doesn't matter. The
Nope.
job
Nope.
needs to be taken care of.
Yep. And that's tough. You have to callous your mind, as David Goggins says. You have to get mentally tough, because if you don't, you won't last in sales. And sales is the best job on the planet, especially for women, because it allows you to call the shots. Where else can you go and say, you know what, I'm going to go on maternity leave because I want to have a baby? All right. In sales, you can have $250,000 in the bank because you can earn it ahead of time. You get to plan. You can decide, you know what, I got $500,000 in the bank. I don't need to go back to work right now. I want to be a mom. Money provides you options, provides you security. You can't do that as an accountant. I promise you, you can't. People have tried, and either they're in jail or they're disappointed.
I
knew
really
I was
love
going to
your...
get so fired up in this conversation. Yes. I mean, because I've never heard someone in the same breath talk about maternity leave and sales is the best profession ever. Like, this is a completely different mindset for me, and I'm sure for other people listening.
It is. It is. You get to determine how much you want to get paid. When I first started in sales, one of the things they taught me was to create a book, just one of those 70-page spiral notebooks. And it was called the I Want That. So I would go around and in my job, and I would say, you know what, I want those shoes. So I would write it in my book. I want that. Every time I would hear a no, or I would get discouraged, or I would say, you know what, this job just sucks, I would go back to my I Want That book. And I would see the Rolex and the shoes and this and that. And I would say, you know what? I think I need to get back to work. Now it's changed because those material things don't matter. But you've got to figure out what is your carrot? Why do you keep doing what you do? For some people, it's material things. In the beginning for me, because I was broke when I went into sales, it was material things. Now it's completely different. But what is your carrot? Why do you do what you do? What's going to make you bounce back when times are tough? When you miss your quota, you're on Indeed.com talking about, I just want to do something else. I want to go DoorDash. No, you've got to have a bigger why than that.
Yeah. I love that framework. Values, wants, needs. Really great
Yes,
framework.
it applies
That's
to everything. Yeah,
yeah.
relationships, investing, whatever it is. What are my values, wants, and needs? And if it doesn't align, if it's not a hell yeah, it's a hell no.
Love
And the
that.
values don't change. Like,
The,
you might try to, we women are so good at twisting ourselves into fitting something.
oh yeah,
Oh, that doesn't have to be my value today. Yes, it does. Your values
Yes,
don't
it
change.
yes, because that's your core. If you don't
Yeah.
have a core to stand on, it no,
Yeah.
don't be
Well,
flailing in the wind. Don't be fair weather. It's very unattractive. Stand for something. Have standards. Have standards. Hell,
and it's
yeah,
self-harming in the end, right? Like if you can't
it
have
is.
values that you can be tethered to.
Yeah.
So I know you are, we're going to have to let you go soon. You're off to the Empower Mint podcast, not right after this, but shortly tomorrow. And when we hopped on the prep call, you mentioned that you had some cupcake recipes going or something. Can
Cupcakes.
you tell us about that?
Yes, the empowerment cupcakes, and mint is MINT. So I take a vanilla bean infused cupcake and then top it off with a mint flavored white chocolate ganache. I decorate it with gold leaf and edible gold dust, and it is a sight to behold.
I hope I get to see a picture. Yeah, it
Yes,
sounds
yes,
beautiful.
yes,
And it sounds like you're a
yes.
baker.
Oh, and
Is that one of your?
yes, and did I tell you there is a pink champagne ball of jelly inside?
Oh my
Goodness.
gosh.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Gourmet.
Well, I'm curious on that topic, just because maybe it's baking, maybe it's something else, but what do you do to decompress, Cynthia? When you run your own business and you're so passionate about this work, I'm sure there's somewhere you go or something you do to disconnect from the work. Is it baking?
Oh, sometimes it's baking, but here in North Carolina, it's hot as fish grease in the summer, so there's no way I'm going to be baking in the summer. So I go fishing with my husband.
Is that right?
Yes, 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 yes. I've caught everything from eel to shark.
Okay.
Wow.
The ocean. Sorry, I have nothing,
Uh-huh, yeah.
nothing about
You're speaking to
fishing
two
or
people who
American
do not know how to
geography.
fish.
It is so relaxing, and just the sun and nature, and you hear the waves, and yeah, it's very therapeutic. Very therapeutic.
That's beautiful.
And I love to travel as long as it's not on a cruise ship.
I'm with you on that.
Boats for fishing, no boats for for the paradise, for the drink. I don't know
No,
if you
I
like
am
to
not
drink when
trying to
you're on
spend my vacation. No, not a vacation on a boat. No, that's not fun.
I actually have one more question before we get into the wrap ups, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
I think that some of the most powerful data I've seen from your career, Cynthia, is something we mentioned in the intro. 25% of women moving up into senior positions in sales thanks to your work. What happens when women are at the top?
Let me give you a little backstory. Companies were coming to mine in AWSP asking for help recruiting and retaining women in sales. So prior to COVID, we held 120 events around the country per year, and we were on a mission. In fact, our partners were averaging a 64% increase in female sales hires. It was great. Then COVID happened, so we had to rethink how we are going to have these events because the magic happens the face-to-face event. And what I realized was that I I went back to those companies who had hired all the women in sales from our events, and I asked the women, how are things going? And either they had left the company or they were unhappy. So what I realized was that it's one thing to hire women in sales. It's a completely other thing to make sure they're happy, make sure they thrive, creating a culture of belonging. So I said, well, how is it that we can create a culture of belonging? What's needed? So I did more research. Women sell differently than men. First off, women are better at empathy. They have higher levels of emotional intelligence. They are better active listeners, and they read nonverbal cues better than their male counterparts. So when companies teach their entire sales staff how to embrace the qualities that make women better sellers by that 11%, the culture starts to shift. Women start to feel like, hey, this is a place where I can thrive. Women then ascend to sales leadership. And the magical thing that happens is you now have created a culture where women feel a sense of belonging. They become evangelizers and they tell their other female friends, hey, come on over because we've got a great culture. So instead of companies spending thousands of dollars, millions of dollars trying to recruit and then lose the women in sales, how about you create a culture where they thrive? Then your recruiting costs go down because you have turned your women into your recruiting staff. It's easy, very simple, very simple.
It is simple.
It is simple,
Thank
yet
you so
people won't
much.
do it.
Wow. Cynthia, it's been so amazing. We're going to wrap with our last question. We ask everyone this question.
Okay.
So here goes. It's pretty fun. You've already accomplished so much and you've already had so many headlines, but just humorous. 5 years
Sure.
from now, we see your name in the headlines for following your passion and doing something big. What is that headline?
I'm doing a TEDx talk this Sunday, and TED.com has my TED talk as the #1 most watched TED talk. Woo!
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
Putting that out there in the atmosphere right now.
I love it.
Yeah. Did I answer your last question?
Yes, you did.
did.
We have one more. This one's not quite a question. Well, I guess it is, but it's not the usual wrap. Where can we go to find you? Like, what are you promoting? How can folks basically who listened and had a great time today, how can they keep your face and keep your voice popping up in their world?
Follow me on LinkedIn, ring the bell, buy my book, Google Cynthia Barnes, and you'll find me. So my book just came out, Reach the Top 1%. Let's see. I'm on LinkedIn. I wish I had enough time for Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram. Nobody's got that kind of time. So LinkedIn it is.
We love LinkedIn here, so great.
Yes. Yes.
I
If
mean, we'll just.
please go ahead.
We've been learning from you for a while now. We'll keep learning from you and spreading the word. I think what you're doing in the world is so powerful, and we're just so grateful that you came on to talk to us today.
Thank you. It's true.
What a great way to wrap.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Rep Matters, the podcast for sales professionals who become top performers. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow Rep Matters wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or access all episodes at marketersindemand.com/repmatters. See you next time.